All right, let's talk IELTS. If you're prepping for this test, chances are you've heard the same old advice, right? Learn big words, read a million essays, memorize these crazy long sentences. But here's a thought. What if all of that is actually wrong? Today, we're going to crack the code and find out what really gets you that high score. So let's dive in.
And I'm asking this seriously because, think about it, the internet is just flooded with IELTS advice. And a ton of it, it's not just useless, it's actually hurting your score. I mean, so many students are out there spending months, sometimes even years, following these strategies that are literally pushing their scores in the wrong direction.
Just let that number sink in for a second. More than 95%. That's insane. What this means is that most of you out there are probably learning from really bad examples. You're picking up bad habits, and you're basically prepping for a version of the test that doesn't even exist. This right here is the heart of the problem, and it all kicks off with one giant myth.
So let's talk about the number one myth, the one that trips up almost everyone. It's this idea that to get a high score, you've got to sound like some super smart university professor, using all these big fancy words and weaving these complicated sentences. But the truth? Well, it's the complete opposite.
Okay, take a look at this. This slide really lays it all out. Over on the left, that's what so many people think a Band 9 essay looks like. It's just crammed with these fancy words, and the sentences are, well, they're a mess. And what happens? You can't even tell what the person is trying to say. But then look at the right. That's a real Band 9 essay. The ideas are simple, they're relevant, it's super easy to understand, and the message comes through loud and clear.
And get this story just proves the point perfectly. Someone did this experiment with hundreds of students. They showed them two essays, a real Band 6 and a real Band 9, but didn't tell them which was which. And guess what happened? Every single time they got it wrong. They thought the Band 6 was the Band 9. Why? Because that lower scoring essay was stuffed with all that complicated jargon they'd been told was good, while the actual high scoring one was just simple and clear. So here's the bottom line, the most important thing to remember. Your number one job is to communicate clearly. That's it. The examiner isn't sitting there waiting for you to impress them with your massive vocabulary. Nope, they just want to know, can you get your point across? Trust me, using a big word the wrong way is way, way worse than just using a simple word correctly. When it comes to IELTS, clarity is absolutely king.
All right, so myth number one, that complicated is better, totally busted. But there's another big one we need to tackle. You've heard it a million times. Practice makes perfect. And yeah, of course, practice is important. But just grinding away for hours on end, that's not the whole story. It's how you practice that really changes the game.
I love this analogy. It's just so perfect. Think about it. Watching the World Cup final isn't going to make you the next superstar, right? In the same way, just passively reading a bunch of essays isn't going to make you a better writer. This idea that you can just, absorb the skills through some kind of magic osmosis, it's one of the biggest failing strategies out there.
And this might be a tough pill to swallow, but it's true. Thousands and thousands of students fail this test every single month. And a huge reason why is because their main study method is just reading one sample essay after another. It feels like you're doing something productive, I get it. But it doesn't actually build the skills you need to sit down and write a great essay yourself when the pressure is on.
So, what's the right way to do it then? The opposite of passive reading is active engagement. It's a four-step process. Step 1, look at the question and really break it down yourself. Step 2, make your own plan. What are your main ideas, your examples? And then, only after you've done that, you move to step 3. You compare your plan to the sample essay. See what they did differently. And finally, step 4 is about internalizing the structure, understanding why it works, not just memorizing words. Now that is active learning.
Okay, so we've spent some time tearing down the biggest myths. Now, let's build something new in their place. Let's talk about the truth. If it's not about being complicated, and it's not about just passively reading stuff, then what are the real keys to getting a great score? What are the examiners actually looking for?
Okay, first up, and this one is huge, paraphrasing. All this means is your ability to say the same thing using different words. And let me be clear, this isn't just some nice little bonus skill. It is absolutely essential. If you can't paraphrase well, getting a Band 7 or higher is, well, it's pretty much impossible.
But, and this is a really important warning, a lot of students get taught this kind of silly rule that you have to change every single word. That is terrible, terrible advice. All it does is force you to hunt for synonyms that don't really fit, and your writing ends up sounding weird, unnatural, and full of mistakes. Look, it is totally okay to repeat a keyword if there isn't a good natural way to change it. Always, always choose clarity over complexity.
Let's switch gears to the speaking test for a minute.
Students worry about a million things in there, right? Am I making enough eye contact? What's my body language saying? What is the examiner thinking about me? My advice? Forget it. Forget all of it. It's just a waste of brain power. The examiner is only, and I mean only, marking you on these 4 things: fluency and coherence, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. That is literally the entire list.
Here's a good way to think about it. Your brain is kind of like a computer, right? And what happens when you have like 20 different tabs open at once? It slows down to a crawl. It's the exact same thing in the speaking test. If you're worrying about your posture and eye contact and all that other stuff, you're opening up all these extra tabs that are just slowing your brain down. So close them. Close all those useless tabs and just focus on the 4 things that actually count. You'll free up so much mental energy to actually, speak well. So, as we start to wrap this up, I hope you're starting to see the big picture. Getting a high score on the IELTS isn't really about learning more tricks or memorizing a longer list of words. It's about something much deeper. It's about a fundamental shift in your mindset, in your whole approach to how you prepare. And this is the secret sauce. This is the positive feedback loop for real improvement. It starts with step 1, learn the right strategy, the stuff we've been talking about. Then step 2, practice that strategy actively, not passively. But here's where most people stop. The magic is in the next 2 steps. Step 3, get feedback from an expert who knows what they're looking at. Because without feedback, you're basically just guessing. And then step 4, you actually implement that feedback to get better. Then you repeat the loop. That, my friends, is how you build real, lasting skill.
People are always asking for time management tips for the exam, but this quote just hits the nail on the head. That's like asking Usain Bolt for his time management secrets for the 100-meter dash. Come on, he's not fast because he's good at managing the seconds in a race. He's fast because he has mastered the core skill of running. It's the same for you. Master the core skills of communication, and believe me, you won't need to worry about the clock.
And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. It's a question you have to ask yourself. Are you just preparing to pass a test? Or are you preparing to become a great communicator? Because if your goal is just to pass a test, you're going to get lost chasing all these little tricks and hacks. But if you shift your focus to becoming a clear, confident communicator, which by the way is what the test is actually measuring, then something amazing happens. You won't just pass the IELTS, you'll build a skill that will help you for the rest of your life. Thanks so much for joining me.